So you had to pay a lot more money for your watch to get somewhere on time?
That's not exactly the point.
That is the point you just made, I think.
That I am now on time.
Great.
So you should thank the watch.
Thank you.
And if you
watch.
value your time so much, like you say all the time.
I do value my time.
There we go. So it's priceless. It doesn't matter how much the watch cost.
Okay. All right. You're right. We are not going to get into that.
Anyway, Kylie, what are we talking about today? Because I don't want to keep talking about how awesome my watch is.
You don't want to talk about that? I didn't get that impression.
As a married couple, how do you guys deal with business bookkeeping as well as household budgets?
I guess that's what we're going to get into right now on this episode.
Maybe we do need to talk about your watch.
Oops.
All right, what do you think? How do you think it's done?
I'll say this. First things first, the businesses have a bookkeeping team and an accountant. We do not, I don't touch the business books other than, knowing like invoicing clients and bringing that in. But, we have a team that is paying attention to that regularly, very regularly.
Yeah.
What's being spent on the business card, what is coming in and out of the business accounts, what do we need to be putting away for taxes, when are taxes due, like all of that stuff. We've got a great accountant that handles that, and then he works with the bookkeeping team to take care of those things. And then obviously I would say I talk to the accountant probably 4 times a month.
Yeah.
Maybe more sometimes, depending on the month.
Shout out to you, Nathan. Nathan Kloster, done wisely. He's been my accountant since the very beginning. We're talking maybe 2011 or 12. And Vin talks to him more than I do.
Usually it's like expletive.
You're still not getting that E word down.
Whatever. It's usually a lot of 4-letter words.
Yeah.
And not at him. Just
got this bill. Expletive.
Why is this state sending me this? But no, really, I mean, understanding or having someone like that understands taxes and, profit and loss and whatnot better than you do is very important. So on the business side, we've got that team in place. And I will say, so that's the easy answer, obviously, but most people are gonna be like, well, I can't afford an accountant or whatever. I make it a point to afford an accountant or a bookkeeper because it is, number one, the amount of time it saves is priceless. And the amount of money you can save, there's tax things that I don't know about, you don't know about. If I didn't have an accountant, like there wouldn't be ways to save money, certain, with the way we file things and the way we, do things with the business. That has been, absolutely a must. So I would say this: if you are, whether you're a couple or you're not a couple, or partners or not, like if you're a solo, you still have to do this. So get a freaking accountant.
Yeah, it's a classic example of, what is something you're really not good at. Make sure you hire somebody to help you do that, especially something like legal or finances that are so important for your business. I would say that I'm a little bit more hands-on with my financials for Gatlu House because we have a lot of different types of offerings. So we might sell a sponsorship, but we also sell product with Aftermark. The invoicing and the expenses, they're pretty cut and dry. It's clients and paying for work to get done. So that accounting is a little bit simpler, but we still have experts looking at it. I need to be able to advise my experts on here's why things are weird. Now go make sense of it. So I think that's why it's so important to have an accountant that knows what they're doing, and you continue to get better at being a business owner by being in contact with them and learning how to do what you do and do it the right way. And I think to bring this together on the business and personal side of things, it's that they are two separate things.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of benefit to owning your business and being able to make more money and have more flexibility. But those two worlds need to be separate so that you don't get yourself in dangerous territory with either side, your personal or your business finances. So I've talked about this a little bit on Amy TV, just like how I save money and how I invest and like how I kind of decipher, where goes what funds. But we save for taxes immediately. We save profit as much as we possibly can immediately. Profit first, best book in the world.
Yeah, you should probably talk about that. That's
changed the game for sure. Profit First is a must-read book for anyone. I don't care if you own a business, because it helps you to really understand the concept of paying yourself first. We always hear that advice and we're like, how do you actually pay yourself first? I got all these bills to pay. Well, that's the exact point. You think you're paying yourself when you pay all those bills, but you're not. And then you end up taking on more bills and taking on more debt, and you're not putting away money for yourself. So it's just a really great book, certainly for businesses. It'll change your life, but in your own personal world, to really understand what it means to pay yourself first. So that really helped us design, how much profit do we want to save? How much in taxes do we need to save? How much can we really afford of everything that comes in percentage-wise for expenses, so operating expenses, and then how much is left? I mean, like, that's the good life, right? So that's so important to figure out. And then that's not what's left, but paying yourself that percentage. And then when that money comes in, there's a specific percentage. This is how much we invest personally. This is how much we save long-term. This is what we save for food and other things. This is how much we're saving for the mortgage. And everything it's a math problem. What I like about it is it's very simple because it's a math problem. So I'm always making sure that there's money going into each of those areas. And then when you say, wow, month after month after month after month, we've had too high of operating expenses at the business, or too high of expendable income in the personal world, we should have been doing less spending and more saving, or more putting it toward other things. It's easier to figure out where those places need to get fixed, because you've designed sort of like what your percentages are for everything, or at least that's how it works for me.
Yeah. I think, on the personal side of things, you have done a good job of breaking it down. There's a bucket for everything, right? It's like, okay.
I love the bucket strategy.
You mentioned, here's a bucket or food budget and whatnot. At first, when we first got married, I don't want to say we were anti-budget, but we were like, we know what we're doing. Once we got really real with each other about, and it was real and transparent, because there was listen, you meet someone, it's all about, love, and we're traveling and this, and we're not talking about things like student loans and debts and credit. Like, we're not talking about those things, and you're just living your life. And then, okay, you got to get married, and you're like, okay, well, who's paying for this wedding? And okay, where's this coming? And then you start, like, things get real. That was interesting for us, because we had to just be very transparent and open with expenses, debts, things like that. Luckily, I don't have a lot of debt. So we were able to say, like, okay, what do we have together? What are we going to create together? I mean, it's okay to have a little bit of debt. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until we were fully transparent, and it was like, here's my credit, my credit score type thing, like, here's everything about me. I mean, you feel so naked when you show somebody that. It's like the weirdest thing.
Well, because it's your present and it's your past, and you're working on a future together, and you just have to be honest about what is the state of things right now, because we can't change anything that happened before. How do we work on it together? How do we build it together? There's a lot of things financially that we both fixed about our pasts that I don't know how we would have done it if we didn't become business owners. That's probably been my favorite part of it, is that I've learned a lot about money over my life. I've made a lot of mistakes with money over my life. And now I feel so much more in control about how I can work to solve those, because I know I'm wiser now, and we can take care of it together, and we do.
Yeah, it's not only eye-opening, but it's actually kind of relieving when you're relieving? Yeah. It's a relief when you know everything, both ways in a partnership. And so for us, it was like, okay, well, here it is. It's on the table now. How do we get to the next, how do we get to the next level? What do we have to do with the cards we have in front of us to get to where we want to go? And that's been super beneficial
Yeah.
for finances and budgeting. But really it is, I hate to say, like, spend less than you make, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it all boils down to the lifestyle you live, living within your means. You don't need to make $1 million to actually like save money. That's the huge, misconception about things is people think, oh, well, if I just made $10 million a year, I know that's a ridiculous number, right? For a lot of people. Oh, if I just made $10 million a year, like I could afford this. Like, well, no, you could actually afford a house if you made $100,000 a year, like how much
you can
what are you
afford a
saving?
house
Like,
for less than
you
that
could afford-
if you're paying
Yeah.
yourself first. If you have a job, you're making money, you make sure to pay yourself first, you make sure to pay your taxes, you sell all the crap you don't need. Like, there's always ways to make money. So even if someone's listening to this and saying, I don't have the flexibility as a business owner, so I'm not going to be this huge success and pay down all these debts. That's not true. You don't have to go and start a business for that to be the case. But I mean, there's definitely a lot of perks, I think, that once you get into it, that can help you get a little bit more advanced, in my opinion. But it's still a lot more risk and a lot of more work. Everything comes with its consequences.
And I'll say this: since we started Profit First, that mentality,
Yeah.
it's totally changed the game. Like, it really, really has. It's changed the way we look at our income, the way we look at our expenses, the way we look at taxes, the way we look at savings, investing, business income. It's really cheap. The way it's kind of
Time.
shaped.
It's changed the way I look at time.
So the way it's
Yeah.
shaped our view has
Yeah.
helped both in the business and personal. And when those two things are kind of the same, it does get difficult. I will add this because I don't think I made it specific enough. Business and personal expenses and income and whatnot definitely need to be separated. Like you
yeah.
shouldn't,
Yeah.
learn that way early on when I first started, because when you're working for yourself and you're just like the solopreneur, you're like, oh, well, I can just expense everything. And it's like, it doesn't really work that way.
Right.
Doesn't
And you
always
need to
work that way.
You have to account for every single thing you expense. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's not a lot of expenses that, there are a lot of expenses that can ultimately take place, but
Yeah.
you've got to account for
Well,
them.
it was like, okay, so it's, when you're in the early stages, right, and your business is you, and you're like, well, I don't need 2 credit cards, I only want 1. And it's like, well, no, it's actually better off for you to have. And again, this worked for me. I'm not telling, this is not financial advice or anything, but it was better off having a separate company card that just was company expenses, that was easier and more reliable way to show like these are actual business expenses because they were put on the big company card.
And
Like,
I will
that was a
huge
when the accountant
deal.
told me to do that, I was like, nah, I don't. No.
Just a pro tip on that. If
But it
there
works.
is a card that you have that's personal, that actually, and you should have a business credit card. I do think that there's a lot of perks to that. But there is one card that I have that I like racking up my personal miles on. I like the terms on it. Like, everything's good. So you can call the credit card company and say, I would like a second card, like another authorized user, but it's got my name on it, or maybe it has an admin's name on it or something like that, where we can put expenses just on this card so that there's a totally separate statement of just business expenses. And that's been working for Gatlu House. And I really like doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it all boils down. If I had to wrap it all up into like one pretty bow, it's just the fact like keeping things organized, separate, and just keeping track of where everything is going. If you don't, I know you don't have to save receipts anymore because now we have everything digitally.
I wouldn't
and
say
whatnot.
that.
I'm
your
saying,
accountant's
I
always
mean
going to
paper receipts. Paper.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
yeah.
You're probably not saving paper
Depends on
receipts
what
of
it
things,
is.
but it's still very important to save invoices and statements and receipts. You get those receipts in your inbox. Like, every time you pay for a piece of software, every time I pay for Adobe Creative Cloud for the team, I always get the statements there. I could go into Adobe and I can like download them
You'll
all.
always
right?
be able to account for
They're
it.
always there,
Yeah.
but so I think sometimes we forget that is you need those things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very important to keep track of.
The other thing I would say is that sometimes with money, it feels all consuming, and sometimes you're in a stage of your business where you're checking your bank account every single day, and we don't want to be in that place, and we want to feel like we're okay. One of my favorite things that I've done is just designate dates and times on the calendar to deal with accounting. So there's specific days, and it's usually a couple days or right around the time I'm supposed to run payroll, so that at the same time that I'm going to send that notice out, yes, cut the checks for the employees, whatever, I'm also looking at where's our income and doing a lot of that accounting stuff. And I'll even handle personal stuff right around that time, pay bills that need to be paid because now I'm getting paid.
It's twice a month.
Things, yes. Yep. And so twice a month I sit down to do that. I recommend it because instead of then being like, oh crap, I got to go do this thing for money, or I have to, and all the time it seems like there's something that's got to get done for money. Having those specific dates, like I pay bills on the 10th. You will get paid on the 10th. I'm sure everybody that's in business, that's specifically in services, is like, oh, well, my client doesn't seem to pay until they want to. Well, you know what? Give them the benefit of the doubt that they've given themselves the day that they do accounting. You can do that too. And so knowing how you operate gets you so much more organized. And it helps you really get your finance organized in that way as well. Now, if you have an accountant that's also helping you handle those bills, maybe there's not a lot of that goes on, but I do recommend this personally as well. Sit down twice a month to say, okay, pay the mortgage, pay the electric bill, whatever I have a lot of things on auto pay.
So I'm like,
but yeah, sit down and do it and make sure everything's good so that you can live your life, take advantage of the good things financially that are happening for you.
I agree with everything you just said.
That's so good.
I do.
Thanks.
For real. It was good. That was a good synopsis.
By the way, we've been getting a lot of 5-star reviews in the Apple Podcast
That's
store.
because I've been intimidating everyone.
I know.
Give 5-star reviews.
I want to say I appreciate everybody, but it's okay. He'll be okay. He'll be okay. He's not coming for you, but we really appreciate the 5-star reviews.
They don't have to live with me.
That's true.
You do. 5-star rate us, review us, 5 stars. We'll really appreciate it. And we will see you on the next one.